Like the title of the video suggests, let's talk about the ugly truths behind starting a business once you're in your 30s. I previously had another business when I was in my 20s. I had a sustainable fashion consultancy. And so I'm not a newbie entrepreneur by any means, but I have noticed that this time around, as I turned 30 a few months ago, it is different starting up a business this time around, and I wanted to talk about it because I previously made a video unglamorizing entrepreneurship, and it was so received by all of you, so I wanted to talk about the ugly truths behind starting a business in your third decade of life. The first ugly truth is that I find I can't be as selfish anymore. Let me explain. When I was in my mid-20s and I was building my first business, I could essentially do whatever I wanted to get the business off the ground. So that meant I made a lot of personal sacrifices. I didn't pay myself as much as I could have. I spent so much time working. I didn't see my family, my loved ones, and my friends as much because I was building my business and I was chasing my dreams. And I think when you're in your 20s, you can definitely do that. But now I am engaged and I have a partner that I'm building a life with. So I need to make decisions with us as a unit in mind and for us as a family. And we are thinking about moving back to Canada and potentially buying a property. I need to build a business that can sustain the lifestyle and the future plans we have. So I can't just be selfish anymore and live that single life where you're just thinking about yourself. I now have to factor into account my partner and the family we're building. And it's not to say this is bad at all. I love my partner and I'm so happy to be building our futures together. But it's just to say that it's different and it's also a part of growing up and it kind of just is what it is. Like I can't just be selfish anymore. I need to think not only about myself, but also about him and our future family. So that's something that's a bit different. Approaching my business this time around, it's not about growth at all costs and success at all costs, which is definitely not what I believe in anymore, as I will reference in future videos. But I really just don't think success at all costs is for me anymore. Instead, with this 2.0 version of my business, I really am trying to make the business work for me. Instead of working my life around my business, which I did in my 20s, I am now making my business work into my life. I've gotten really clear around how many hours I want to work, what kind of money I want to make, and setting really firm boundaries around that and then working my business into that. I'm still working hard. I'm still doing all those things, but I'm being more strategic and I'm working smarter, not just harder. All this to say, I think the first ugly truth is the fact that I can't be selfish anymore and I need to be considerate of my partner and the future we're building together. Based off of the first ugly truth, the second one is the fact that I feel a very condensed time pressure, which is kind of self-imposed, but also not. Let me explain. So when I was in my 20s, I felt like I had all the time in the world to make this work. And I wasn't thinking of having kids yet. I wasn't engaged. I had just met my partner. And while I loved him so much, it was still very much so like the Selena show and making sure that I got everything I wanted out of my career. But now, because I am in my 30s and we're thinking of starting a family potentially in the next 5 years, my subconscious in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I only have 5 years to go hard. And then after that, I'm going to be a mom. There's a lot of uncertainty with being a mom. You're not sure how demanding or, how naughty your kid's going to be or how well your kid's going to sleep. And there's all these factors. The type A planner in me is like, okay, let's try to prepare for this next stage in life as much as we can. And I know there's only so much you can do and you never feel ready and you're never fully prepared, but I would like to as much as I can because I have some clients right now that are moms and they are my superheroes. I don't know how they do it. They're building their business while raising actual human beings. I'm not going to lie. It seems pretty stressful. Building a business is already stressful. And then layer on top of that, a screaming kid that's getting you sick every other month. I could not. I just know I would really, really struggle. So that's why I'm trying to prepare for this all before that happens. And because of that, I just feel an immense amount of time pressure. And sometimes it's fine. And then other days I spiral and have a whole existential crisis. So that's an ugly truth. If you are a woman and you're in your 30s and you potentially want kids, but you still want to build your career, it's something that you have to figure out. I've talked to some mentors of mine that have kids and I really respect them. But they've told me the blunt truth is that having a kid will set your career back about 2.5 years because you're pregnant for 9 months and who knows, you might have a super easy pregnancy, or you might be on the other end where you're having morning sickness every single day at all hours of the day, not just in the morning. So it really varies, right? So that's 9 months. And then after that, there's the whole postpartum part. Of course, the first year of having a kid is arguably the toughest. So that's a long time. And if you want more than one kid, then that adds even more time. So it's not to say that having kids is a bad thing. I know it's an absolute privilege and it's such a beautiful thing. But at the same time, you do need to be realistic about the impact it's going to have on your career. If you're someone that values raising kids and having a family and you don't value your career as much, then that's amazing. And I'm so happy for you. But if you're someone that, like me, that values your career a lot, but also values loved ones and a family, and you're trying to figure out how to balance it and integrate it, then welcome, because we're going to go through it together. But that's definitely another ugly truth. That's something I'm navigating because I know I want kids and I know that my partner is going to be amazing and super supportive. But at the end of the day, it's still me that's going to be carrying this baby, and likely me that's going to be waking up in the middle of the night when the baby cries and it's hungry. So you just have to prepare for it. I'm happy to do more content around my journey preparing for it because this is uncharted territory. It's something that's coming up. And even though it's not happening for a while, it's still something I'm thinking about in the back of my mind because, like I said, I do want to prepare for it. It's something I didn't even really think about in my 20s. It just felt like such a far off thing. Now it just feels very close. So I really want to prepare for it. And it's definitely something you need to think about. With that being said, I've seen what my clients that are moms have to go through, and we're now trying to take them out of product delivery and take them out of intensive sales activities. My clients previously that had to sit down for sales calls or do live masterclasses, that's definitely not something that a new mom should be doing because you don't know what's going to go on with your baby. Your baby could be sick. Your baby could not sleep well one night and then you're off the whole day. You just don't know. There's so many variables. So as much as possible, we're trying to have evergreen sales tactics, which is also something that I'm going to be building out with my business too. When it comes to delivering your product or your service, if you are currently the person doing that, like if you're advising brands or if you're an agency owner or if you're a content creator, if you're the product, we need to figure out ways to make you not the product so that you can go off and have your maternity leave and soak up those early years with your baby. So yeah, it's just something that I hadn't thought of in my 20s, but now in my 30s, it's taken over a lot of how I structure my business. Though if you don't want kids, and it still would be nice to have a business that doesn't rely on you because then you have the freedom to choose what you want to do with your time. Like you could work on your business or you could go abroad. You could live in Europe. You could live in Asia, right? Like you could travel. Some things to think about. And the third ugly truth is that the age thing still does come up. I talked about how turning 30 felt like such a big deal. I had multiple existential crises, really amplified by the fact that I was also going through a career and business pivot. Of course, it felt like such a monumental number. And then when I turned 30, it wasn't a big deal. But sometimes, from time to time, I still feel like it is weird that I am 30 and I'm starting a new venture because my friends are in 9-to-5 jobs and in these stable, cushy jobs, and they are at certain parts of their career. And in many ways, it kind of feels like I'm starting over. But I do know, even if I am starting over and building another beautiful business from scratch, I do have cheat codes. I have lessons, learning, strategies, battle scars from my previous business that I'm now incorporating into this business. But I'm not going to lie, the age thing does pop up here and there. And then especially now that I'm creating more content on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, there's so many amazing, young, inspiring creatives. And I look at their content and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But it's because they have I don't know, I think they just have so much more energy and more creativity. And maybe that's just an excuse. But yeah, I'm trying to get out of this mindset that I've hit 30 and so I must be tired more or I must be exhausted more, because I look at my dad who's in his 60s and he is still so young at heart. He's so active. When my parents visited me earlier this year and I took them to the Dolomites, we visited in June, but it was the start of hiking season. And one of the hikes I brought them on, there was a full-on blizzard. We had crampons on. We were hiking in the snow. And my parents handled it like champs, and both of them were in their 60s, but especially my dad, because my dad really refuses to believe that he's old. It's honestly one of his pet peeves, and I don't think he would admit that, but he always gets so annoyed whenever me and my sister goad him about his age. But I do think to an extent, age is just a number and I just need to remember that. But I'm not going to lie, it does pop up here and there. When I see younger entrepreneurs, younger creators, I'm like, ooh, must be nice to just be young again, But it is an ugly truth when you're in your 30s, starting over, building a business again, it comes up. And then the fourth ugly truth is the fact that you do have less energy. While age is just a number, your body is just not what it is in your 20s. I remember in my 20s, I could go out drinking all night and then make it to an 8 a.m. spin class. It was wild. Now, absolutely not. I've cut out drinking a lot now too. Like I'll have a nice glass of wine here and there, but I'm not really drinking that much anymore because I know how much of a toll it has on my body. And also, I'm pretty sure alcohol is not good for you. So trying to take care of my body. We're running more. I've talked about habits I'm trying to build anyways. Make sure I take care of myself and just accept the fact that I can't just work on 4 hours of sleep anymore, which is what I used to do when I was working a 9-to-5 job and side hustling my business, which is wild looking back on it now. But I absolutely cannot do that now. I might be able to pull it off one night, maybe 2 nights in a row, but I absolutely cannot have that be my regular. And I really shouldn't either because I'm in this era where I'm trying to make my business work for my life and not work my life around my business. So yeah, but the reality is you do have less energy and your body isn't as quick to recover as it used to be. The last ugly truth I wanted to talk about is the fact that it is lonely still, but in a different kind of way. So before, when you would start a business, it would probably be lonely because you're a solopreneur, maybe other people around you aren't really starting a business. But I think in your 30s, starting a new business is especially more lonely because a lot of people in your 30s are settled down and they tend to follow societal norms where you get married, buy a property, have kids, all this stuff. And I think if it's for you, that's amazing. But if it's not for you and you're going against the grain of society, it can be really lonely and isolating, especially if you're starting a job and most of your friends in your 30s have a 9-to-5 job, which is literally me. Like I would say 95% of my friends have a 9-to-5 job at this age, which makes sense because people have mortgages to pay. They're saving up for having kids, but it just makes starting a business in your 30s that much lonelier because there's less people that are going through what you're going through. I'm making a very conscious effort now to reach out to people that are also entrepreneurial at my age and connect with them. So if that's you and you're in your 30s, I would love to hear from you. Please comment below or send me a DM at Selena J. Ho. We need to band together and support each other. Otherwise, it can be very lonely. These are just some of the ugly truths about starting a business in your 30s. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love it. I just wanted to talk about it though, because it is a little bit different from starting a business when you're in your 20s. And I haven't seen a lot of people come on here and talk about some of these things. So I wanted to open the door for these types of conversations. If you have any other ugly truths you realize in building your business in your 30s, leave them in the comments down below. I would love to read them. And as always, I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.